Hi everyone, today I wanted to do a quick pre-market update. You can see in the pre-market we were falling, hit that lower trend line that we expected to hit today. We're catching a little bit of a bounce. The question is, are we going to top out in here? Let's take a look at this and a couple other charts here this morning. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So looking at this SPY chart here, you can see we pulled back. We did not hit that lower band, not quite the same as the NASDAQ that we saw on the intro. Right now we're holding up here at that 21 EMA. That's a good indicator if you're trying to be bullish here, holding this kind of zone of consolidation of EMAs and SMAs right in here between 592, 593 in here. Held that zone, we're rallying up. The question now is, do we push up to this trend here, 596.36? Based on this hold, the higher low off of this push here, you would expect it to push up into that upper trend. That would be the short-term target. And then off of that, you would be looking for 599.64 if this structure is going to break out to that level. That would be this consolidation high from the 11th really up until the 14th before we saw that bigger move down. So right now this actually looks a little bit better here this morning than it did yesterday. It was falling all in the after hours, fell a little bit more pre-market, but ended up holding those lows there. The other concern is we're right at this SMA on the RSI, and you can see so far on these candles it's broken back below it. If on the open this kind of craters here, that could be interesting. We're still in the same kind of consolidation on the SMA, basically flat from this previous level, but we're also at a higher price, so you have the same RSI, higher price, a little bit of divergence there, interesting as well, which usually leads to that bearish divergence, bearish style break. So this morning looks a little bit better on the price action, but indicators still showing a little bit of weakness, and you can see it's continuing to fall just a little bit since we've been talking. And then moving over here to the Tasty charts on the hourly, you can see we're still in bullish conditions. We did get into bullish on the 4-hour. We talked about that yesterday, but you can see it's holding this kind of midpoint here, same as the other charts. Your upper target would be this upper band at 597.66. That would be right in line with this previous consolidation, just like we talked about. So right in here is what you'd be looking for. This chart actually looks a little bit different, honestly, kind of grinding lower before it dipped versus the trading view charts were a little bit flatter, I feel like, but interesting to see, pushing for that upper band. ATR trailing stop right now would be 589.71. Momentum not really doing anything. Obviously, we don't have any volume yet here in the pre-market, but it's holding up. Slight gap down and fall on that current candle, down just a smidgen. You can see it there, but we'll see if it opens up, if it can get to that higher high. Your first target would be 595.85 on that first band, but then that second band would be hopefully where you get to. And once you hit that band, usually there's a little bit of a pullback, but then you can hold the higher low and kind of get that grinding price action. If this ends up being a bear flag, then you would be looking for this ATR trailing stop to get broken down, get into bearish conditions, and then you kind of see that continuation lower. But for now, it's actually held up okay in the pre-market, a little better than I would have guessed. Moving over to the NASDAQ, just like we saw on the intro, this one actually looks a little bit weaker. You can see we did rally up, did not hit that upper trend line there. We had the lower high set up off of these wicks. Now we pulled back to the lower band, so we did touch the lower trend, showing a little bit of weakness there as well. We're currently rallying in the pre-market. If this establishes another lower high and then starts to break here, taking out these levels, that is going to be very, very concerning. That's what I'm watching for here in the pre-market and into the open. The current level is 503.52. We've been kind of chopping on that level, especially yesterday. Big move down, huge wicks to the lows, rallied back up out of that. 200 has been your resistance, and the 200 right now on the hourly is at 505.72. So upper bands of resistance between that 505.60, 506.50, somewhere in there. You got the trend resistance here. This is a more medium-term trend line, kind of the center of this consolidation of trends here. But in the short term, it seems like we are following this bear flag setup. Again, once you start to see these lower highs and miss that upper band, that's usually when this starts to break. But so far, again, in the pre-market, it actually looks okay. We're starting to gain some momentum here, despite pulling back, holding that 55 EMA on the touch at that 502.14 area and then rallying up. The question is, does this hit this upper trend? Does it break out from there and start to push? My next level to the upside, kind of a wide berth on this one, is up at 514.92. Because we had this huge acceleration out of the earnings. There was not really a lot of levels in here to work with. Maybe you could add one at 509.93. I'll think about adding that one for the evening video, but for now, looks okay in the pre-market, not quite breaking down yet. Critical zone here between that 506, 506.50 area. Moving over to the Tasty charts for the hourly, again, you can see still bullish conditions. ATR trailing stop right at that 550 area. Momentum holding up here. We're still above all these EMAs and SMAs on the hourly. Looks a little bit better here on the Tasty charts than the TradingView charts in terms of bullishness, with that low, higher low setup in here, continuing to run. Upper band right now is 509.70, 509.75, pretty much in line with that other level that we talked about, marking these bottoms in here. So probably going to have to add that level later on the other charts. But right now it looks good. We need to take out this level here at 505.84, push to that upper level if it's going to do it. If it rejects from that level and you have kind of this continuation of a topping pattern in here between 505 and 505.50, 505.60, somewhere in here, if this continues to top out, I think that's going to be the area where we start to see this bear flag setup start to break down. And then we'll get a reversion to bearish conditions. The lowest ATR band right now, 497.68. We're basically in the middle of that range, giving you about a $7 move or a 1.5% down move, taking you towards these previous lows here. So critical zone once again on this morning's trading, waiting to see which direction we end up breaking out. Moving over to AMD here on the daily chart, you can see we've had multiple setups where this did basically exactly what we are thinking the NASDAQ is going to do. Just wanted to show this kind of as an example, but also as a potential setup. So you can see move down, bear flag type setup, break down, followed that exact kind of correlation almost to the lows, overthrew it a little bit, and then you got another bear flag, broke down out of that structure as well. This trend continues to hold in here. Your current support is that 132.55 level. In the pre-market, it's basically in that area, just a couple of dollars above it. Still finding resistance at 138.94. Still very much a bearish structure here, but it doesn't mean that you can't see kind of one of these kind of rip style moves where you get a pretty substantial move. You can see that's about 20% here on AMD. If you did get a 20% move, that would take us into this 200 SMA as resistance. If this continues to hold as a structure in here, very, very similar to this style move, that could be very interesting. So trend structure here, same kind of trend structure, still finding a little bit of support. We've been here for basically 5 days, gotten to the same range actually back here in November, had a slight bounce, holding the same zone. RSIs holding flat. Interesting area here. If AMD starts to break from this zone, I think we could get a push into the 160 area. So something to look for on AMD. It's kind of a sideways choppy market. We've had those downtrends, but of course, over the longer term, this is still bullish structure, holding those trends in here, which are very, very long-term trends. Very important structure there. So once again, this looks interesting to me in this area. Moving over to DELL. DELL had a great day yesterday, 3.7%, and they had earnings, which they also did well. You can see they're up about $4, a little bit less, $3.50, somewhere in there. Momentum stepping to bullish. Looks like we're going to hit this trend early in the pre-market, 143.50, somewhere in here. This previous all-time high is up here all the way at 179.50. That was a massive run, gapped huge down, consolidation, bigger move down. Now we're starting to run back into that zone. If we see a push towards this 146.50 area and we start to push through that level, let's go ahead and extend this out just a little bit. That would give you a trend resistance up around the 155.58 area. And if we did get into that area, that is not far off of these all-time highs. So it wouldn't shock me to see DELL go on one of these kind of colossal style runs where you have a push here of about 50%. Can it make it another 34% to get back to that previous high? Seems plausible. This seems to be accelerating a little bit, especially off the catalyst of good earnings. So DELL starting to make some runs here in the pre-market. Good gap up. Needs to hold and push to these next levels if it's going to do it. But again, critical trend resistance, which has been resistance really since back here in August, and we're here once again towards the end of November. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of the pre-market charts. How are you playing them? Do they look a little better or worse for you here this morning? Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.